estimated wait time is approximately forever.
We cannot afford to be so politically correct anymore. Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
Please continue to hold for the next available representative. Please. Just keep waiting.
Americanism, not globalism, will be our credo.
We appreciate you waiting and waiting. What is it you're waiting for? Do you even know anymore?
These are people who work hard but no longer have a voice. I am your voice.
Has been disconnected.
Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new live stream. Make sure you guys like the stream down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So we have a lot to cover tonight. Over the past couple of days, the campaign season has been ramping up. We have Joe Biden. He's going everywhere. He's campaigning. His approval rating has unmoved. It's unchanged, I should say. Since the State of the Union, it has not changed according to several polls that have been released since the State of the Union. One poll out of ABC and also ISPIS, or however you say it, released a poll showing that just 29% said Biden exceeded expectations during his speech. A lot of people didn't see the speech, and as a result, his approval rating did not move whatsoever. Usually, presidents get a bump after the State of the Union addresses that they give, but Joe Biden was unable to do so, and that we know. And he is down horrendously. His approval rating is worse than any president in their first term. I think you got to go all the way back to like Bush 1 to find somebody with an approval rating this poor, this late in his term. And that's another thing. If this was like his second year, it'd be different. Reagan had low approval ratings in his first term from time to time. It's just things that happen, but he rebounded. He recovered. What exactly is going to recover for Joe Biden? What does he exactly have going for him ahead of this election? He has a war chest. He has money, but it's not like he has a ridiculous amount of money. He doesn't have as much money as he had back in 2020. Neither does Trump, to be fair, but it's not like the fundraising gap is like ridiculously wide. Biden's got like 50 million cash on hand or thereabouts, and Donald Trump has about 35 million cash on hand. Trump got outspent 3-1, a little bit more than that in 2016 against Hillary Clinton. It did not stop him from going out there and winning the election, mainly because Hillary Clinton was not that popular. Now Joe Biden's approval rating is lower than Hillary Clinton's favorable rating was. And because you have an incumbent president, what is this election going to be? It's going to be a referendum on the incumbent president. Why are they trying to manufacture all of these scandals and talking points? Why are they getting this desperate? Because they know that they can't win this way. Biden doesn't want to solve the problem at the border. He's trying to blame Republicans for it, despite the fact that he could completely undo everything he did via executive action. And it's surprising that he's not going down that road because he wants to play the long game. He wants to have a record amount of illegal aliens in this country. And on top of that, what does he want to do? He wants to go out there, his justice system. He's met with people. It's not like, oh, they're doing it on their own volition. No, he's met with people that have been in the DA's office down in Georgia. He basically is the one that's spearheading this one way or another, whether it's him directly or it's the people that are high up that are supporters of him that are going to do everything in their power to get him back in the White House. They want to destroy this country. The border is a complete and total disaster right now. That's disqualifying first and foremost. You have all these people pouring into this country illegally. Every single day you have a lot of people. And Biden's trying to say the problem is actually because Republicans didn't want to put a bill forward that would have basically made it easier for people to come in. It would have naturalized or set a path to naturalization for a good chunk of the illegal aliens that have come in. You wouldn't have really seen anybody be deported under that bill. And on top of it, it hired like a couple hundred judges to oversee cases that would still take a very long time. So at most, that would probably deport like a few thousand of all of the millions of illegal aliens that have poured in. Give me a break. And honestly, if he cares that much, just undo it via executive action. But that was intentional. He got rid of a lot of Donald Trump's executive orders and policies that kept the border at bay. You saw a surge to the border in 2019. Donald Trump went out there. He took care of it. But now, because a lot of that legislation is out of the picture, you're seeing a surge to the border that has gone on for the entire tenure of Biden's presidency. And he's talking about jobs, but there hasn't been any new job growth for American-born workers during his presidency. The only jobs you've seen get back were just, jobs that were recovered from COVID. That's not really Biden's thing. It's not really a talking point that does him too well, given the fact that his approval rating on the economy is so low. And that's what it comes down to. Donald Trump is somebody who was president, and people at times did not like his personality, but his approval rating was never this low, despite the fact it's not low currently. His favorable rating in the aggregate sits at 42-43%, and that's if they approve of him as a person more so than if they approve of him as a president. And you look at those who approve of, Joe Biden as a person, it's actually lower than Donald Trump at this point because people see this guy, they see what he's doing, they understand he's a lunatic, and he has a core base of supporters who are completely delusional. They're the people that are going out there. Every time he makes a statement, they say, wow, that was so profound. Look, guys, he's not completely, mentally deficient just because he pronounced like two sentences relatively correctly. They say, wow, this narrative that Biden's mentally declining isn't really working. And it's like, really, it is. And now the fact that his major ad that he's coming out with, he's trying to use his age to like his advantage. So he's already on the back foot. He comes out there with an advertisement that said, I'm not a young guy, but I still get things done, which he doesn't. And if you watched his State of the Union, you would see You had an old man basically going out there, yelling at a cloud, complaining because he didn't get anything done, trying to blame everybody except for himself because he didn't get anything done. It's not like Biden's actually doing things that benefit the country, even according to his own base. He's done literally nothing except leave the border wide open and oversee an economy that is not working for a majority of Americans. And they're banking on the American people to be dumb, to not do their research. They're banking on the American people to buy the scandal, buy the nonsense they're trying to throw at Trump. And so far, it's not working. According to polling, which is just one metric, but it's not working. And yeah, Biden has money. He can flood the airwaves. Donald Trump still has money to counter. Maybe he doesn't have as much money, but it's not like he's getting outspent 50-1 like some of these candidates were in the midterms. This is a different ball game. Donald Trump has a decent amount of money overall, and he's using it to his advantage, and he's hitting back with other advertisements. Biden did an advertisement. Trump did an advertisement as well. We could play it right
I'm
here.
Not a young guy. That's no secret.
So he's now they're trying to use his words against him, and then Trump is basically playing all these clips of Biden just doing the Roombas there. He doesn't know where the hell he is, exiting stages all the time, making all of these gaffes. He was calling the president of Egypt the president of Mexico, and even then he was butchering the name. So ultimately speaking, they're hitting back pretty fast. The Trump campaign this time around is very competent. They are, fully on watch. They're in the war room. They're striking back, and they did that here. There was an ad released by Biden. They countered it like an hour or two later with an advertisement that just spun it back on him, because it's like, no, you're not a young guy, Biden. And it's not like you're like Trump, where you're older, but you're still energetic, but you're still somebody who is relatively with it, and somebody who, maybe you could say Trump is more reserved this time around, but is that a bad thing? I don't think so. If anything, it means that he's more restrained. It means that he's more competent. He's not somebody who's just going out there and, throwing stuff at the wall to see if it sticks. And while it's funny when he does it sometime, and he still is somebody that has fun and is witty and comes up with these one-liners, because that's just his personality, and it's arguably one of his greatest strengths, even if people want to say it's one of his drawbacks. He's a lot more reserved this time around. He's going out there and he's running a better campaign. And we see that. Biden, on the other hand, is completely awful. Here he was in, I think, Pennsylvania, and he's just, again, slurring his words. He was slurring his words during the State of the Union. I get irritated even when some people that are Republican and don't like Biden were coming out and saying, well, he actually performed well in the State of the Union. It's like, that's your bar because he didn't shit himself on stage? What exactly is your bar for him not performing well? We want to set realistic expectations. I even said that before the debates. I'm like, anybody who thinks Biden's going to get completely trounced is wrong. They're going to drug him up with something. They're going to try to get Trump to trip over himself, etc. Trump, I think, won the second debate handily. There's a little bit of a debate about the first debate, even in these circles, no pun intended, but still, incumbent presidents typically, historically, don't have the best performances in the first debate, which is the most important one given the early vote that we see now. And it's like, okay, well, Donald Trump needs to, do what he can do to make Biden just talk, trip over himself, look like a fool. But that's beside the point. You look at what's happening here. Biden is on script. He's on the teleprompter. It's not like he's going off script, and even then he can't even articulate correctly. I guess the Adderall or whatever they put him on before the State of the Union, they must have ran out pretty quickly. It must have taken a big dose to get him to go for 40 minutes before everything just wore off and he was just meh. But still, and it's funny because he's out there. He's totally unhinged. He makes a mockery of the State of the Union. And if Donald Trump acted like that in the State of the Union, we know the blowback. We know the narrative. He gives an unhinged speech, invoke the 25th Amendment, this, that, and the other thing. But when Biden does it, it's fiery. It's all fun and games. He's sticking it to those evil MAGA Republicans, which, again, whatever. It's his favorite dirty word to use. But, when Donald Trump's on the ballot, I don't think it's going to have the same effect, because if anything, it's just going to have the deplorables, basket of deplorables effect. is what it's going to have, because all he does is insult the MAGA movement, insult the main core base of Trump's voters. What does that exactly do? It fires them up more than anything, especially if they've got an opportunity to go out there and put Donald Trump back into the White House. But here, let's listen to this 8-second clip real quick.
We cut the deficit, and we added more to the national debt than any president in his term in all of history.
What exactly did he just say? Now, he did say here
Under Donald Trump.
under Donald Trump, but it's like, again, he's slurring his words. He, completely just messes everything up when he talks. And it's like they want to get, they want to like try to sit up here and say, well, actually, you're like making fun of somebody who's disabled. It's like, well, why do we need a president who's disabled? We have 300, million people in this country. Like, just because somebody's disabled, it shouldn't make them president, because they want to say he has a stutter. But it's like, you watch clips of him in the 70s and 80s. He didn't have you didn't hear a visible stutter. And even like going back to the 2012 debate against Paul Ryan, he was still very mentally with it. You've seen a vast amount of decline. Trying to blame everything on a stutter, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. You could say he's stuttering his words, or maybe he technically has a stutter, but he didn't let the stutter show for quite some time. But now he's just all over the place. He's confusing people nonstop. Trump will say something, once every month he confused Nikki Haley with Nancy Pelosi, which honestly, is that really all that bad? Is there really that much of a difference between the two? But still, that was a big deal. That was in the news cycle for weeks and weeks and weeks on end. Biden does that stuff every single speech, and he minces words. And what exactly happens? Well, he gets free coverage. They say he's just a forgetful old man. Well, then why is he president? His own Department of Justice basically said that he couldn't be held liable for handling classified documents or mishandling them and showing them to his ghostwriter. But still, he's perfectly fine for the position of President of the United States somehow, some way. It doesn't add up to me. It doesn't make sense whatsoever. They're covering for their boy. But how much more can they cover for him? Because he's not in the basement. You can't use COVID as an excuse. You're the president of the United States. Even if you don't campaign at all, it's probably not going to move the needle a whole lot. Whereas if you stayed in the basement the entire time in 2020, you were able to get away with a lot more. And he had big tech running cover for him, the FBI running cover for him, because it was a concerted effort to get rid of Trump and to prevent a Trump second term. And they're still trying to do that. Biden's entire term, he's been more concerned with Donald Trump than anything positive for the nation. And that we know. There's nothing he could really bring to the table, even for his own base or these undecided voters. He has nothing left because he's just objectively an awful president, regardless of however you chalk it up. So anyways, guys, like the stream down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Let's get to 172,000 subscribers. That was our monthly goal. Can we hit it less than a third of the way into the month? We started at 166,000. Now we're knocking on the door of 172,000. We have less than 100 subscribers to go until we hit our monthly goal. Make sure you like the stream down below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you want to use live chat, well, make sure you subscribe. Otherwise, you're not technically allowed to. So, anyways, we are going to be moving on to kind of a pivot topic, because we were talking about Biden. He's on the campaign trail. He's going to Georgia because they have the primaries there. And Trump is in Georgia. They have the primaries there as well. And this is an interesting primary to watch. I know that Nikki Haley's dropped out, but still, watch the margins. Is Donald Trump getting a higher vote share of the primary than Biden is? Because that's very telling. How are the other options performing in a state like Georgia? What is the overall turnout? Because turnout can carry Democrats in Georgia if they get enough black turnout. If black voters are disillusioned with Biden, like what we've seen in North Carolina, what we saw in South Carolina, several other states that had very low turnout on the Democrat side, even for incumbent president facing zero opposition standards, well, how is it going to look for him in Georgia? So he's in Georgia, Trump's in Georgia, Democrats in Georgia, for the longest time, they've been pulling out resources. Now they're I think, starting to maybe put some effort back into Georgia, but still, it's not a state that's high up on their priority list because they know they're in a lot of trouble in Georgia. And this so-called president, Joe Biden, has completely fumbled the ball on the border issue. And Georgia is the state where you had the Lake and Riley case, where a college student who went to University of Georgia was slaughtered by an illegal alien who came through the southern border during Joe Biden's presidency in 2022. He wasn't even Mexican. He comes from Venezuela. A lot of these illegal migrants aren't actually from Mexico. They go to Mexico and then they cross via the southern border. You even have like African migrants and, Middle Eastern migrants and even from certain countries in East Asia. You have organized crime organizations, etc. They all pour illegally through the southern border that Biden has left wide open due to his own executive action, and now is trying to blame Republicans for it because they did not want to push a bill forward that would have made it a lot easier and incentivized a lot more people to come into this country, because he's handing out free citizenship is basically what it would do. They're laughing at that bill. They're laughing. If they could, watch Biden's State of the Union, they'd be laughing right now. But either way, it doesn't matter. But Biden has completely fumbled the ball on the issue. MTG backed him into a corner back in the State of the Union address on the topic, made him say her name, which he butchered, did not apologize for it, and then was resoundingly called out by members of his own party because he called the guy who killed her an illegal, which is exactly what he is. It was a rare moment of truth, a vintage Biden moment, I guess you would say, for current standards, which is a very low bar to begin with. But still, they were upset. Democrat congressmen were upset. Raphael Warnock, even like Pelosi, all these people were more upset with the fact that Biden called a killer an illegal, which he is an illegal alien. But they want to get rid of that because they want people to be incentivized to pour in, so they'd feel more at ease with that. That's what they want. They call them undocumented. That's like saying a drug dealer is an undocumented pharmacist. That's like saying that, a thief is like an undocumented owner of something. It's completely ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense, but because it's immigration and because they're trying to change public perception and language surrounding the topic, which is typically what a lot of Marxists do, that's exactly what you get. Now, he calls this killer an illegal, and then he's asked about it, and what does he exactly do? Does he double down, which would have been a good moment for him politically if he took advantage of this and said, I'm going to reinstitute remain in Mexico policy. It's gone on for too far long. I made a mistake. My heart goes out to the family. He isn't illegal, whatever. Then that'd be one thing. Obviously you don't like the guy, but it's like, okay, well, that's actually good politics. Instead, he doubles down and it gets even worse. You thought it was bad before, it gets even worse. So he apologized for calling the illegal an illegal. And he goes on to say this. Here, we can listen to this.
But during your response to her heckling of you, you used the word illegal when talking about the man who allegedly killed Lake and Riley.
An undocumented person.
So he just says undocumented person, and then, here you go.
And I shouldn't have used illegal. It's undocumented. And look, when I spoke about the difference between...
You're talking about a murder. I don't care if you're calling this person racial slurs or anything like that. This person is a sick son of a bitch. He killed an American citizen because of Biden's weak border policies. It doesn't matter what you call them. At that point, that's not the problem. And you're apologizing because you used a term like illegal, which in and of itself is the accurate term. These people are not legal citizens. They illegally entered the country. They are illegal aliens is the term, not even illegal immigrants. Technically, some people will say illegal immigrants because of illegal immigration, but no, it's illegal alien because these people are not even immigrants, because that would imply that there is paperwork involved, and there's no paperwork involved. These people are not immigrants. So that's what it comes down to. It doesn't matter what you call this loser, this, this evil person, what he should be called. These people are poisoning the blood of the country because they are literally taking blood in this country. Donald Trump says it the right way. He actually calls out the situation the way that it is. You have all these people, they're taking our resources. They are, in many cases, bringing drugs and crime, and a lot of them are, rapists and murderers, like this individual from Venezuela that took the life of Laken Riley. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't really matter what you call them. And he's sitting there apologizing for it. Seriously? There should not be any mercy for these people. There should not be any sympathy for these people. These are not people that do this kind of stuff to begin with. These are animals, but they get mad when Donald Trump calls MS-13 animals. It's exactly what they are. These are not real people, and people do not do things like this. They do not take innocent lives. That is very barbaric, animalistic things to do, and that we know. And then he goes on to say this.
Between Trump and me, one of the things I talked about on the border was that the way he talks about vermin, the way he talks about these people polluting the blood.
They are polluting the country with crime, with drugs, the border crisis as a whole. And he's like taking Trump out of context even a little bit, but it's still true. It's still accurate. There's no sympathy for these people. They need to get these people out of the country. We don't know who they are. We don't know where they're coming from. In many cases, like I said, they're not even coming from Mexico. It's Central America. It's all over the world, basically. A lot of organized crime is pouring in because they know they can get in the country. They know they're not going to get deported. They're going to be caught. They're going to be released. They're going to exploit the country for their own personal gain. It's a problem.
Talks about what I'm not going to do, what I won't do. I'm not going to treat any of these people with disrespect.
It's a murderer. He's not going to treat a murderer with disrespect. That's what he's saying. He is siding with people that take innocent American lives, who have no business being in this country, who came into the country because of Biden, because of his weak border policy. And it's insane.
Look, they built the country. The reason our economy is growing. We have to control the border and more orderly flow, but I don't share his view at all.
And when he said the last part, we know that's a lie, because his direct policies and actions caused the border to not be controlled. So either way, if this doesn't make you angry, I don't know what will. If you're watching this and you side with this absolute disgusting lunatic that's in the White House, I can't help you. I can't help you. There's no reason for anybody to vote for this guy. You hate this country, or you're just dumb. There's no in between. Like, this guy goes out there, defends a murderer, and then says, well, guys, actually, we're going to be respectful because his ilk built the country. Illegal aliens did not build the country, Joe Biden. These people are coming in under your watch. They have nothing to do with this country. They have no ties to this country. And many of them, if not most, if not all, should never be let in to the country, especially these people pouring across. It doesn't matter if you want to say it's one incident. There's a lot more than one incident. There's a lot more than that, but still, on top of it, you look at the big picture, and it's like any crime committed by an illegal is preventable, especially during this administration when you've had this many people pouring across the southern border. We need to fix it. We need to fix it right now. It's disgusting. It's disgraceful. And Biden is allowing it all to happen. So, without further ado, I think we have to get to the super chats here. We've been going for quite some time already, and we've gotten quite a few super chats. So make sure you guys like the stream. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel as we get closer to hitting our monthly goal of 172,000 subscribers. We are 60 subscribers away. Make sure you guys like the stream down below and subscribe. Let's get to 1,000 likes. We're knocking on the door. We got 2,000 live viewers. Let's get there. So here we go. Johnny Heartdog for 10 says, question, on a scale of 1 to 100, how confident are you that come January 20th, 2025, Trump will be president? If it's a fair election, I'm almost certain, but as it stands, it's less than 25% for sure. I disagree. I think that's a low ball. You have to understand what the hell they had to go through last time. And they are weaker objectively on many fronts, and Biden is weaker on many fronts, to the point where they're not going to be able to go out there and, pull every single string. Look at what they're doing. They're doing it in the legal system. If they could prevent Donald Trump via the election system itself for losing regardless, if they were able to do that, well, they wouldn't be doing what they've been doing. Now, I'm not saying there's not going to be stuff, but I'm saying, there was stuff in 2016. There's been stuff in every election going back to the 80s. Just because it's going to be a close election doesn't mean that we can't win it. We can win it. We have to win it. We have to get out and vote. But, looking at Biden's numbers, they're just so bad. They're so bad that I just cannot see him going out there and winning. It would take a massive turnaround of his administration, and I can't see it. He lost a lot of voters with that. That needs to be cut up and put in every single ad. It needs to be aired in every single household, not just in Georgia, but across the country, especially in swing states. You're letting people into this country. They are terrorizing communities. They are going out there and they are committing murder. And then Biden is apologizing to the murderers because, we called them the wrong name, wrong designation. I shouldn't have used that term. Who cares? They're animals. The people that come in and do that stuff, they are animals. Donald Trump says it right. Biden apologizes for illegal alien murderers that he has incentivized directly in rhetoric and policy to enter this country. This is not, trying to look at this in an unbiased manner or whatever. There's no need to. This is the only way to look at it because it's 100% linear. It's 100% true. There's no other way around it. Todd Reed, thank you for becoming a member. Thula Sadis, no surname, thank you for becoming a member as well. On Point Politics says Trump hasn't looked better than ever. True. Is this going to be a call-in stream? Next Sunday, I will do a call-in stream. Not today. HGTV Executive says, do you think Steve Garvey has a chance? What are your thoughts on the primary results in California? I think that they are telling in the fact that in a lot of these down-ballot races where Republicans seem to be a little bit vulnerable, they did very, very well. And I think what it tells me is that they're not going to see, a bleeding of support in a lot of these seats that they won in 2022. In fact, they may add seats at the congressional level. They might pick off Katie Porter's seat now that it's an open seat, now that she's out of the way. So I don't think Steve Garvey really has a chance to become senator, especially because he's running for Senate. If it's a statewide office, it's different, but it's senator of California. He'll do well. For a Republican in California, he'll probably get in the low 40s. That's going to help out down ballot, but is he going to win? Probably not. Object Class Keeter says, what do you think about the Reform California caucus? Are they making a difference in California and the state GOP? I'm not aware of the specific caucus. What I am aware of is the fact that you have a lot of people in California that are making a big effort to, ballot harvest, get out the vote, etc., and that is helping the state not flip Republican, but turn a corner. I think we will see California vote Republican in our lifetimes at some point. It's going to be a very long time from now. It might take, coalition shift, whatever, but I think you might see it happen at some point, depending on what happens, maybe in the next 30 years or so. If we still have a country, if we save the country, it's possible. If not, a little bit of a different story. Royal Doyle says, do you think news sources like MSNBC and Washington Post are still able to influence people about Trump? In a way, I think that that's just largely baked into the cake. Trump is going to have his haters in the news media and all the liberal outlets. He'll have defenders in the conservative outlets. I think most people have their opinions made up on both Trump and Biden, and I think Trump is stronger between those two. So I don't think they move the needle as much as some people may think. W says, can someone explain why Trump is getting more votes in Loving County, Texas in the primary than he did in the 2020 general election? Well, it's a tiny county is what it is, and you have a lot of people that move here is what it's going to come down to. So when it's all said and done, I don't think that it really means much. I think it means that people are just very energized to turn out and vote. Sam Madsen says Trump's comeback ad only aired online. It's not going on TV. Biden's is. That's a problem. Well, Trump's ads are going to go on TV. Just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's only going to be on the internet. He's going to go up on the airwaves, presumably in Georgia and plenty of other states, especially as he tries to make a push to get out the vote for the primaries, even though they're over. He's still going to be on the airwaves to some extent. Man Milk says, can we talk about the partisan gap in party discipline? I don't know exactly what you mean by party discipline. Do you mean how competent that certain parties are? Red Politics 1776 says, close the border, Trump 2024. So true. Saga says, personally, I would like to see Trump pick Lee Zeldin as his VP if the illegal immigration issue continues to get worse. If not, Trump or RFK Jr. would be good. I don't know if he's going to dive into I'm going to try to pick these people who were Democrats like a year ago to be his VP. I'm not saying that, Tulsi Gabbard isn't going to be involved. I'm sure she's going to be endorsing him, be a campaign surrogate. But in terms of trusting somebody like that for VP, that is a tough task. I think RFK Jr., he's not somebody that is going to be on the VP shortlist. He's running against Trump. He's not our friend. He's never been our friend. He's like, he's a Democrat who is like from 2008, but also happens to, be a little bit more hands-off on COVID than other Democrats were. It's like, this is 2024. I'm not saying that COVID isn't an issue in terms of the response. I'm not saying that it's irrelevant completely, but to most people, it's not moving the needle. It's not making a difference. Camo Money, thank you for becoming a member. Caleb Miller says Kanye for VP as a black Republican polls are right. Well, I don't think that's going to happen. Let's see. Tucson Paleocon says thoughts on the Hamadeh versus Masters congressional race in Arizona. I've told people my thoughts on this plenty of times. I like Masters probably a little bit more, but it's like Hamadeh is not somebody who's going to go into the House and have an atrocious voting record like some people do. Like, yeah, he's got some weird old social media posts or whatever, but, if he's firmly in Trump's corner, he's probably going to be voting with him 100% of the time or so. So it's not like he's going to go there and be an awful congressman whatsoever. And it's not like Masters doesn't have flaws. I mean, he's caved into a lot of his consultants' advice, and it hasn't been good advice that they've given him. And, I don't think that if he were to go to Congress, he'd be as epic and based as he was in the 2022 primary cycle. And I just don't think he has much of a chance. And if anything, him being in the race could help the rhino or the more neocon type. I'm not saying he's a full-on rhino, but you have Ben Toma, who's like the establishment favorite. He kind of benefits from Masters being in the race, pulling votes away from Hamadeh. So we'll see. So the Sandwich Man says, thoughts on the Emerson College +2 Biden poll when Emerson College is a leaning right pollster and overestimated Republicans in 2022. Well, they've had polls that have had Trump up. They've had polls that have had Biden up recently, nationally. I think overall you have to look at the polls that were accurate in 2022, which there were many. You have CBS, you have the New York Times pollster, and what did those all show in recent polling? That Donald Trump is leading. So Emerson is an outlier. It's weird that they happen to be an outlier, but you have to look at their approval of Biden poll. It shows Biden as a 45% approval. Virtually none other poll gives Biden above a 42. So it's an outlier. I wouldn't read too much into it. It is what it is. Orange Chicken Girl says Swifties for Trump. Well, thank you for the 2. Lover of Green says, why are there still people in the Fauci cult? It's 2024 and a minority of Americans still wear face napkins. The coof is practically over at this point. but I guess some NPCs will never get the memo. Well, it's like, I don't know what they're trying to do other than look like morons. I mean, it was always dumb, in my opinion. The masks didn't do a whole lot, and that we know. And it was always just a cope. It's a cope shield is what it's always been. And Bernie Sanders at the State of the Union decides to put it on just out of nowhere. It's 2024. I mean, these people, by 2021, it became a losing issue. That's why Republicans did so well in a lot of special elections in 2021. And then it kind of went away in 2022 completely. And they just memory hold a lot of stuff. And then these approval ratings of governors started to go up, a lot of the Democrat governors that locked down. And then you had Dobbs become like the new thing. And Republicans didn't really respond well to the aftermath of that. So let's see. Explorer Bear says, make sure they put the illegals in the suburbs so that they end up voting for Trump. Well, I mean, at that point, you'd just be pushing them further and further into the country. But what needs to happen is you need to play on people's emotions. Democrats do this, and it's very dishonest at times. It's very disingenuous, but it's good politics. And what we're doing is not even disingenuous because it's true. You have illegal aliens that they will come into this country, murder people, and then Biden apologizes for it. This is not like a George Floyd situation even where it's like there's a debate over is Chauvin guilty or not even. Because at that point, we know that fentanyl was at play. It clearly was not an attempted murder. The debate that really people are centering on is, was it manslaughter or was it solely a drug overdose? That's what it's come down to. This Lake and Riley case, it doesn't matter. In terms of, what's in the system in terms of the drug percentage or, who was actually at fault, because it's obviously 100% the fault of the illegal alien. That's the fault. And if you try to run cover for him, it's going to be a lot different than saying, hey, well, look, the Minneapolis Police Department had that in their handbook and, the cop was doing his job. It just looked horrible optically, because you could pass that off for the whole George Floyd thing. But when it came down to the whole Lake and Riley thing, that's objectively, you cannot defend that. And nobody at the time was really, Trump never came to the defense of Derek Chauvin the week after it happened. He, instead played too much, in my opinion, into the whole BLM stuff. But Biden goes out there, he blames the murderer, or he blames the people that are calling the murderer illegal. Basically what he's doing. He never apologized to the parents of Lake and Riley, both of which are supporters of Donald Trump. He never reached out to them. He never apologized to them. But instead, he butchered the name because he got pressured and he had to go off script. And when he goes off script, he makes mistakes. And on top of it, it's it's just ridiculous. Joshua Hall for $50 says, Rep, thank you for all your work spreading the word. Well, thank you for the big super chat. It's super chats like yours that keep the lights on over here. Mitchell Ryan says, what do you think will happen after the election if Trump wins? Do you think they'll even let him in the White House? I don't think the establishment would let him in without it getting dangerous. I agree with the overall sentiment. It's going to be a struggle. Biden is not going to give up power easily, and it's not just Biden, it's also the people around him, because that's how the pendulum shifts. 2016, we saw protests, many of which turned into violent riots after Donald Trump won the election. And then 2020, you saw, obviously, majorly peaceful protests. You had one protest get out of hand that was instigated by feds, basically, at the Capitol. And even then, it was vastly overblown. So it's insanity. The pendulum will shift back. You will see protests if Trump wins. More likely than not, it's not going to end well. But do I think that Trump is going to get in the White House? Yes, I think he will get in the White House. I'm not too worried about that. But his presidency, they're going to try to stop him again. They will. It's not going to be a cakewalk. That's why we need down ballot Republicans. I know people are not all enthusiastic to get out and vote for the GOP, which is why the midterms were a little underwhelming, but we have new leadership. We're seeing a change. There's hope at least. Let's get out there. Let's get the right people in power, not just Donald Trump, but also down ballot as well. Johnny Hartdog says, did you listen to MTG's speech at the Trump rally in Georgia yesterday? I did not. It was great. It's about time they're using ballot harvesting and early voting. Well, that's what they're doing. I mean, Lara Trump, everyone is like, mainly these never Trumpers, they're like, oh, look, Trump is just putting incompetent people in power that don't know what they're doing. But she goes out there and you look at her platform and it's like, wait, this is everything that we need to do. This is everything that even these people have been talking about for the past year and a half, but they're upset because it's a Trump in power. They weren't complaining nearly as much when Ronna Romney McDaniel became the chair. If they were ever going to say anything bad about her, it was because, oh, Trump endorsed her back in 2017 for the chair position. So there you have it. Anthony Perez for $50, another big one. Says we're voting Vivek Ramaswamy in 2028. Right, Red Eagle? Also, we right-wingers still exist out here in Northern California. Well, I'm open to Vivek. I would like to see who runs. He might not end up being my first choice, but given the other people in that field, if you take Trump out of it, he was the one. Polite Rude Guy says, hey, Rep, did you see my super chat? Okay, wait, we actually missed 2. I apologize for that. Wilsey says, who you want for VP? For me, I want Ramaswamy. I don't think he's going to pick another alpha dog who's going to share the spotlight. I think he's going to pick more of a ceremonial option. I don't know who it's going to be. We talk about the short list. We talk about people like Lee Zeldin. We talk about people like Ben Carson and etc. Polite Rude Guy says, language, my guy. I don't know what that's referring to, but, we get a little fiery when we hear Biden go out here and defend illegal alien murderers and say that they build the country. What do you think the deep state will plan to try and stop Trump? For example, they used a global pandemic to increase voter turnout, illegal or legal. Well, they're trying to do this with the cases is what they're trying to do. That's their clear thing right now. And it's just like, I don't know. I just personally do not see them having anything at this point that I could point to and say that's going to be it. However, we know how these people operate. We know what they do. I've said, Biden would actually try to help on the border and, try to claim a victory because of it, even though it's totally bogus. But at the end of the day, it's like, is he going to do that? He's running out of time. If anything, he's just going to look weak, and Trump is going to say it took you 4 years to, end this crisis that you started because you wanted to incentivize the amount of illegal immigration to the country. That's what it really comes down to. But yeah, we obviously have to watch out for that kind of stuff. Let's see. Let me go back to the other super chats. Security TV says, what's your opinion on Brandon Herrera, the YouTuber running? And that's for Tony Gonzalez's seat in Texas. I think he needs to win. I'd like Trump to endorse him in the runoff as well. Caleb Miller says, I'm a lifelong black Republican and the energy on the ground is crazy. There's about to be a historic realignment. Well, I hope you're right. We hear this stuff every election cycle. And I feel like there have been gains that have been made, 2% here, 2% here. But, this massive realignment, there hasn't been, I'm not saying there's no evidence for it, but evidence of an actual true shockwave. If we see it, it's going to happen this November, but we got to not only bank on that to win this election. Sam Madsen says, let's say Whatley was chair in 2022 instead of Ronna. What races change in your opinion? Well, that's a loaded question because the midterm failure was not solely due to one person. I mean, you have the whole Mick establishment. You have McConnell. And we could say if he didn't do the Alaska thing, he sent that money to Nevada, we keep Nevada. If he, changed certain primary funding, we definitely could have, held or won a seat or, better recruiting in certain states. Maybe we could have actually gone out there and held Pennsylvania or Georgia, you name it. But still, I mean, you probably could say a couple of seats could have flipped just because of, better competent leadership, a better brand for the party. I think that it depends because if you had Whatley as chair back before 2020, maybe 2022 would have been poor for Republicans because, well, Donald Trump would be in the White House and you'd have the midterm energy on the other way. So we'll see. Polite Rude Guy says, should Russia be allowed to join NATO? Well, they wanted to join NATO back in the day, Now, I don't think it would be feasible right now. I don't know what that would accomplish because there is a big disconnect. You're letting rivals into your little club. No matter what your position on the war is, it doesn't seem that feasible. But I do think that, back in the day, if there was more cooperation with Russia, do I think Russia could have been a lot more of a, I wouldn't say like an ally, but would they have been less of an adversary potentially? But still, I think now it would just be unfeasible. It's just a question that doesn't make sense. It's like saying, do you think that 1941 Japan should be allowed to join the Allied powers? It's like, yeah, I mean, maybe if things went differently 10, 15 years before, but now it doesn't seem feasible. Soaring Bum New Mexico, or NM, I don't know if that's what it stands for, says, why is everyone anti-Trump when he is basically Bill Clinton? Well, I've said it for a while. He's not somebody who is extreme on positions. Like, there's no position he takes that's not, like, common sense. If anything, you could say he's not right-leaning enough on certain things. However, I think in this day and age, in order to win the system and kind of move the Overton window and get in there, I think that he takes pretty much the right positions on pretty much every issue running at the national level. But yeah, anyone that's saying, oh, he's like some crazy, because that's the thing they do. A lot of these neocon never Trumpers were saying he's not a real conservative. He's not a true right-winger. And then they would say, he's a threat to democracy. He's a fascist. We must defeat him the very next week after he gets the nomination. You could go back and look at certain articles written by the same people in certain outlets. They were saying, Trump's a moderate Republican. Week later, Trump is a fascist. He must be stopped. It's like those two things don't exactly add up. It's because he's a threat to the status quo, and they're willing to take any position at any given time to weaken him or to go out there and stop him. So that's really what it comes down to. Let's see. I don't think that's, I think that's it for Super Chats for now, but we're going to keep going. We're 51 minutes in. Make sure you guys, again, like the stream down below, subscribe to the channel. We are 35 away from hitting our monthly goal of subscribers. It's free to subscribe. A lot of subscriptions out there in the world you got to pay for. YouTube, just hit the button. That's all it takes. And that's pretty much it. Polite Rude Guy says, we are the bad guys. Tyrants took over the government on January 20th, 2021. They did. They absolutely did. And you see what the past 3 to 4 years have entailed for this country. It's been hell for a lot of people, even people who supported Joe Biden in the 2020 election. It's been hell for them too, which is why this is a very big IQ test in this election. Are you going to buy the nonsense? Because they have nothing to beat Trump on policy-wise, because they can't. So now they're trying to beat him on, oh, he's his personal life or whatever. And if all they're going to do is talk about his personal life and baggage, as long as Donald Trump focuses on the issues, Donald Trump is going to win. Make no mistake about it. It's like ridiculous at this point. It's like if Biden had a 52% approval rating and all Republicans would talk about is Hunter Biden, Hunter Biden, Hunter Biden. Would it move the needle with some people? Maybe, but if it would just bounce off, it's not exactly something that's going to move the needle. Biden gave a very divisive State of the Union because he's trying to energize his base. That was completely unprecedented for a State of the Union address to be that politicized. Even Biden's earlier State of the Unions were less politicized, and Donald Trump's State of the Unions were not, obviously you tout your agenda, you got to do your thing. That's one thing. But if you're going to go out there and basically give a campaign speech, call out your political opponents by name, even indirectly, it's like, yeah, that's usually not what the State of the Union is for. Maybe you could say it was more like, yeah, it was like a DNC speech that he gave. It was, long compared to most of his speeches, not compared to Trump's speeches, but he talked about, he hit his opponent on certain things, and he kind of tried to give, I guess you would say, about an average unifying tone for a DNC or RNC speech. It's like, it didn't move the needle, though. I mean, usually those types of speeches move the needle. But no, I mean, his approval rating isn't going to go up because of that speech. If anything, it might go down because of how ridiculous it was. It was a spectacle. And shame on the Republicans as well for dropping the ball so poorly in their response. It's like, I don't even have anything against Katie Britt, but she's going out there. She's becoming a meme for no reason. It's like a weird setup that she's got. She, even if she's saying the right thing, she's saying them in a ridiculous, dramatic fashion. I don't know who's advising her to talk like this, but it just made her the story instead of making Biden the story, because Biden, it was completely unhinged. He was insane. I mean, he was slurring his words, but he was like, at least he had some energy because he was clearly on something. Katie Britt, on the other hand, there's no reason to go out there and fumble the ball like that. And why don't you have Donald Trump give the speech? Obviously, you don't have to have Trump give every single rebuttal to every Biden State of the Union, but this is before an election year, and he gave a politicized campaign speech. You have to counter by giving one back. I did that live stream after the State of the Union on Thursday night. It was far better response than what Katie Britt gave, and she's a United States senator, and that's what she does. She goes out there and she just puts on some like performance. It just came off as fake. Like, I don't think she's a bad senator. I don't think she's a great one. I think she's like maybe B tier, but still a little bit ridiculous, and it's not moving the needle. It's not like she's going out there and it's like genuine emotion, because you could probably convey that better. But it's like, if you can't convey genuine emotion, you gotta make sure that you just stick to whatever makes you come across as the most genuine person, and she couldn't do that. So it's an L. Let's see. Garrett Vranikar says, could Greater Idaho happen under Trump's second term? It would help the Republicans with House seats in the Electoral College. Well, it should happen, but will it? Probably not. Grant Peterson says, I'm a little afraid a lot of the DeSantis people will sit out or vote Biden. Even if it's a small number, it may be enough to cost Trump the election. Well, here's the problem. And I understand where you're coming from if you spend a lot of time on Twitter, or I guess now it would be called X, but still, those people, your lunatic astroturfed accounts, they're not representative of DeSantis supporters in real life. If you look at the primary, every single person who said that they would support DeSantis in the primary, they went directly to Donald Trump. They didn't even go to Nikki Haley. They went directly to Trump. So what that exactly shows me is that any DeSantis supporter in real life has pretty much come on board. The astroturfed, neo-never Trumper campaign that's trying to sow division, mute those people, starve out their dopamine, don't interact with those people. There's no reason to. But even then, a lot of those people have come home to Trump anyways, to the point where I don't even think that Trump is at a disadvantage at all with any wing of the DeSantis crowd. And the Haley supporters is a little bit different. He'll probably get half of their votes and Biden will get the other half. But, I mean, the Biden half, a lot of them were already with Biden to begin with. So exactly, is that a bad thing? I don't think so. You have these open primaries. Democrats are, they've been telling people to cross over for Nikki Haley, and that's exactly what's happened. Let's see. Christopher Laurie says, is it just me or every person the GOP chose to respond to the State of the Union has been women? They need to stop this virtue signaling. Well, Tim Scott gave the first one, but again, you could argue that that was due to identity purposes as well. I don't know who gave the State of the Union response last time. I could look this up. State of the Union response 2023. Let's see. I don't think it shows me right here. It just keeps talking about Katie Britt's response because of how bad it was. Kim Reynolds gave the one in 2022. That is true. Yeah, you're right. It was Sarah Huckabee Sanders. So apparently the response was given by either minorities or women the entirety of Biden's term. And obviously they do the Spanish address. There's been, Juan Ciscomani gave it in Spanish, but again, even that's kind of like identity focused. So yeah, honestly, there needs to be more meritocracy in the Republican Party. They claim to be the party of meritocracy. and then they go out there and they pander to a lot of groups, and it's kind of pointless, and it isn't moving the needle. Suburban women, how's the push to get suburban women been? I mean, you've bled a lot of support with suburban women. Like, at least they've gained some black voters with their outreach, but is that due to their outreach, or is it due to other factors? I think it's mainly because of the latter. So, if you want to outreach, you got to go for groups that are trending your way in a decent amount, that you got to keep, that you got to win, and that's kind of what you got to go to. So yeah, a lot of it is virtue signaling. Dustin Enoch says, seems like it is all going to come down to what happens between now and the election. Could Haiti finally collapsing be a factor? Probably not. I don't think the average voter cares about Haiti. It's a country that is largely irrelevant to our policy. It's not like some major foreign conflict overseas. It's not like we are apparently meddling in Haley. We're not meddling in Nikki Haley, but I said in Haiti. We're not meddling in Haiti, it seems. So I don't think it's going to move the needle. Easy the Legendary says, only reason why Dems are remotely competitive is because they know how to play the game. Once the GOP actually does it, it's Jover. Well, we have new leadership, and we have leadership that's got, wins under their belt already. They go out there in North Carolina. You see what happened to that state party under Whatley. He's now the chair. You're getting rid of incompetent people nationwide. You have a decent field that you're putting up down ballot, people that can win both the primary and the general election in pretty much every single one of these key states. So it's like, yeah, I think that the Republican Party is in a very, very good position in 2024, a much better position they were in 2022. And I said this before the midterms. Even when I thought they would do well, I said there's a chance that 2024 ends up being a better year for them than 2022. And I think that so long as they go out there, take the Senate, and obviously the White House would be great to have them, that we know, it's going to be a very, very good year for them and a much better year than 2022. They may expand their House majority. What House seats are they losing? They might lose 1 or 2 in New York, maybe 1 or 2 like in Oregon's 5th or whatever across the country. There might be a couple seats that they lose, but then again, there's a couple seats they might pick up. I can't see them having a net loss of 5 seats. If anything, they may have a net gain. So overall, as long as they are holding those seats in California, which again, the primaries are not a perfect indicator, but it shows that they're going to be in a very, very good position for the general election. So let's see. Sam Madsen says, evidently Netanyahu is going to invade Gaza now. Biden is screwed no matter what he decides to do. Yeah, he should probably just not talk about the topic, because he's getting a lot of pushback from a lot of different people, and it doesn't really matter what side the people are on the conflict, because the Palestine side, they hate him. They're upset that he's not calling for a ceasefire. They're upset that he's, sending aid to Israel. And then the pro-Israel side of things, they're upset that he's sending aid to Gaza and that he's calling for a 2-state solution and all that. So there's really nothing that Biden can do on that topic to really win. There's not. I mean, what issue can Biden win on? I think this is the other thing that I didn't talk about yet, but the ABC poll on the issues, they choose Trump on the economy by 12, Trump on inflation by 14, Trump on crime by 6, and Trump on the border by 16. Now, Trump is down on the climate by upper single digits and also abortion, but undecided voters disapproved of Biden's handling of abortion as well. So it's not like Biden exactly is in a really strong position on that issue. It's more of a state issue. Democrats really overplayed their hand on abortion in 2022. I think for 2024, it's like, especially with Trump at the top of the ticket, he's not seen as somebody who is like going to support a national abortion ban. He said he wouldn't unless you had like Democrat support. So it's unlikely that they're going to actively try to spin that. And if they do, they're just lying. All they do is lie. All Biden did during the State of the Union was lie about Trump, lie about his own policies, lying about Republicans and, how they're going out there and stifling his agenda. So what exactly does he have to win on? He does not really have much to win on. Mike Griffin says, I disagree with your take on Haiti. It's going to cause a wave of Haitian refugees like you've never seen before, and they will all get into the U.S. because of Biden. You know what? You're right about that, actually. I didn't think about that. But if you have a refugee crisis with Haiti, it's brutal. Because Biden's going to try to get these people in here. And it's not a good look. And especially with the border crisis, most people are going to say, we don't need these people. They can go to the Dominican Republic, which is right next door. They could go to Mexico. They could go to a safe country. We don't have to bear the world's problems on our back. We don't have to do that. We have to put our own country first. We can't let this country become a dumping ground for the rest of the world's problems. We just can't do that. It's not going to work out too well. So, there's no reason for any migration at this point whatsoever. And if they do come into the country, it is 100% true. If that happens, it will not make Biden look good. If anything, it's going to help us. So we'll see. Because we don't want these people here. There's no need for it. So that's that. Anyways, guys, like the stream. Let's get to 1,500 likes on the stream. Let's see. That one oddball says, would you support Rand Paul for Senate Majority Leader? He'd be better than most of the other people on the list. I don't align with him on everything, but just based off of, basic pragmatism, he'd be a lot better than Mitch McConnell. He'd be a lot better than John Thune, John Cornyn. So I'd have to say so. Let's see. Dustin Enoch says, now we will have a crisis on the southern coast. A lot of people from Haiti come across the southern border too. It's not just that they're going to be arriving at ports in Florida. So, it's just not good. So we have 2,000 people in chat. Like the stream. Let's get to 1,500 likes. We're less than 20 subscribers away from 172,000. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. We are 19 subs away. I know that there's 19 out of the 2,000 people here that aren't subbed. So like the stream, hit that subscribe button. Let's do this. Grant Peterson says, what are the odds in December Biden grants amnesty? Well, if he does that, he's going to get completely decimated. He will get completely decimated if he does that, but it would be awful for the long term of the country. But I don't know what he can do as an executive, because he's going to need votes in Congress for it, and they're not going to let that happen. They wouldn't even let the so-called border bill through, which would have kind of incentivized a path to citizenship for these new arrivals by 2032. They'd be voting in that election. David 1412 for Abel, thank you for the 10. Nick A says, can you give an update on the 13 keys? Alan Lichtman says Biden's the favorite right now. Well, I think job approval of an incumbent president is far more of an indicator than this 13 keys model, which has been wrong and modified several times. It's like you talk about the economy and the foreign policy. They say Afghanistan's not a failure. They say the economy, both keys are good for Biden, but in reality, the American people disapprove of Biden on the economy. You have foreign crises. Arguably, the border crisis should even count for one, but also the Afghanistan pullout. There's no way that you could sit up here and actually prove that Biden is the favorite based on his own merits. Even if you want to say Trump is an X-factor candidate or whatever, it's like you can make that argument, but still, based on his model, just viewing it objectively, Biden is not hitting the margins where he's going to need to hit to win. And there's that. So, we could talk about the 13 keys, but I'd probably view the keys differently than him. It's a general guide is what it is. It's a general guide. It's not entirely accurate 100% of the time. And it's been proven wrong in 2000, 1932 as well. David 14124 Abel says, huge Haitian population in Boston, grows daily. That's not surprising. A lot of these cities are going to be overcrowded with a lot of these migrants, with a lot of these illegal aliens. You basically have Europe and all the problems that's going on over there, you're going to have that here. It's only going to get worse, which is why we need to stop this from happening. It's why Trump needs to lean in to the immigration issue, and I'm very glad he's leaning into it because the identity of this country is at stake. If we do not have borders, we do not have a country. Plain and simple. That's the way it goes. So we need strong leadership that can get in there, deport all these people, and secure the border once and for all. And now I think there's enough public support to do all three of these things because people are fed up with Biden's nonsense at the border. So there you have it. Anyways, guys, we are knocking on the door of 172,000 subscribers. Make sure you guys like. Let's get to 1,500. We are 6 subscribers away. Make sure you guys subscribe. Let's hit the monthly goal on stream tonight before the stream is over. That would be absolutely huge. But, yeah, we have a problem. We have a lot of problems going on in this country, so we gotta deal with it. We can look at regular chat as well while we wait. Let's see. The primaries aren't finished. Yeah, the primaries are not finished yet. Get out and vote if you live in Georgia. Get out and vote if you live in a state that's voting. Make sure you run up the score. I know there's also like Senate primaries as well in Ohio. Make sure you guys get out and vote for that as well. Christopher Laurie says, this is off topic, but I think during this presidential election year, there might be a papal election. Francis is in declining health. We must pray for our country and churches. Well, I didn't know that. That would be interesting. I don't know how their elections work. I assume it's like the cardinals that do it. I'm not fully well versed on how the Pope is elected, but if they get new leadership, that would be interesting. So, did I see Rosendale drop out? I did see Rosendale drop out. I was very surprised, but it seems like they've got some scandal. And we hit our goal. We hit 172,000. We did it. We got there. Thank you, guys. We hit our monthly goal. Not even 10 days in, 10 full days in, I should say, to the month. That is absolutely huge. Olivia Williams says, whatever happened to American Populist Union or American Virtue? They just dissolved. I haven't been really involved with them in a very, very long time. So I guess they just happened to dissolve. So that's that. But let's see. We got a lot more live chats here. I'm scared Mark Robinson will become Mastriano. How is Mark Robinson Mastriano? Mark Robinson is Doug Mastriano. If Doug Mastriano was a likable, charismatic, black preacher with like a baritone voice where everything he says just sounds like it's powerful. And also if Mastriano had money and was in a state that was less elastic, he's not going to weigh down Trump. If anything, Trump is going to pull him over because Mastriano was at the top of the ticket. Robinson is not at the top of the ticket because governor's elections take place during presidential. If a governor's election takes place during a presidential year, the presidency is what's focused on. Robinson won. He didn't weigh down the ticket for Trump when he was lieutenant governor. I mean, it's a little bit less of a prominent position, but still. M says deporting illegals will remove Democrat House seats. Technically true because they account for that in the population. I don't know why you're seeing the citizenship question get turned down. You would think that with the original intent of the Constitution, they would be able to interpret it properly. Olivia Williams says, what do you think of Santos v. Lalata in New York's 1st District? I mean, I don't know what he's trying to do. Like, Lalata's a rhino, and that's true, but I don't think Santos is going to win the primary. And even if he did, I don't think he'd win the general. And even if he did, he'd just get thrown out again. So I just don't know what's going on there. Dustin Enoch says, what happens if Trump loses any game plans? Well, that would basically mean that the country would pretty much end. You give Biden 4 more years to do exactly what he's been doing for this entire time. It's not going to end well for this country. It's really not. You will get amnesty. You will get probably weaker Republican Senate leadership than you possibly could have as well. So it just would not be good. So I don't know what you mean by game plans, but it's not gonna end well for the nation. Soaring Bum says, F yeah, Real Angle, Red Bangle, Blue Beagle, Red Eagle. Well, thank you for that little word salad there, and thank you for the 10. Sam Madsen says, what do they have on Rosendale? I heard a rumor that he got like involved with a staffer and there was some like sex scandal going on, but I don't know if there's any proof or evidence for it. So like, I don't know. It's just alleged stuff. I personally think it's probably false, but something that they would probably try to use against him in a primary. If he just ran for re-election from the onset of it all, and he never ran for Senate, you know, it wouldn't have come down to this. It wouldn't have. So it's kind of disappointing, but it is what it is. So how do I think that Republicans can get Allegheny County to turn around and make it competitive? I don't know if the math is there, just demographically speaking, but they got to make sure that they can, you know, get as many people out to vote as possible. That's what they need to do. I mean, there's a lot of like steel workers. There's a chance that, you know, Trump might gain a point or two in Allegheny, could rebound. I mean, Biden pretty much did max himself out in 2020, so there's that. Let's see. Any more? He's retiring because he's been getting threats. I mean, that also could be possible as well. I'm sure it's not just for one reason or another. It's just disappointing. M says, do you think Garvey could do better than Trump? I think he will do better than Trump. The question is, will it be by enough to pull some other people over? That's another question. Kyle Ball says, I fear that they will try to redact Trump. God forbid that happens. Love the broadcast. Well, thank you for the super chat. Listen, they are trying a lot of different things right now, and that we know. So hopefully they keep him safe and he can get in there. So we'll see. Not something I want to think about. It's not something that a lot of people want to think about, but it is what it is. Let's see. North Georgia's Trump country. Atlanta doesn't represent us. Well, the problem is there's a lot more people in Atlanta than there is in northern Georgia. But still, I think Trump is the favorite in Georgia. I think he'll win Georgia. I think the primary is going to be very telling as well. And also we'll watch the 3rd district there and see what's going on there. If Mike Crane can pull off the upset. Let's see. Do I think Darren Bailey will defeat Mike Bost? I think he could. I think in most cases the Trump endorsee that's an incumbent wins, but it could be like a Lauren Boebert situation or even like a Madison Cawthorn type situation where you see the Trump endorsee lose to the more Trumpian candidate. So I think Bailey has a chance just because of his prominence in the state, and he's a lot better than Bost. So I know Trump endorsed Bost, but I encourage people to vote for Bailey because he's just better, you know. Maybe he just endorsed Bost because he didn't think Bailey could win the primary or just got bad advice or intel. But, you know, we got to get out there if you're in Illinois, southern Illinois, and vote for Bailey over Bost. So, let's see. Do I see Tulsi becoming Secretary of State or Secretary of Defense? I think she could be in one of those positions, yeah. I mean, she probably could be. Seems like she's always been in that position. Trump actually wanted her for Secretary of State initially. I mean, she met with him in 2016 at Trump Tower, but he went with Rex Tillerson, and then he followed that up with Mike Pompeo, who's another disaster. Kind of surprised he didn't run for president, actually, in 2024. I'm shocked he didn't join the clown car, but I guess he had the mental acumen to understand that he wasn't going to want his name to be on that list next to people like Pence and Haley and DeSantis. So there's that. But I think she could do both of those positions because she's always been very good at foreign policy, whether people want to say she's been liberal on economics or crime or the Second Amendment. She's not. She has a murky past about that, even though she claims she's come around. But the one thing she's been consistent on is foreign policy, which is why that I think it would be a very good position for Gabbard to be in, one of those spots. Have her as UN ambassador instead of Nikki Haley this time around. So there's that. Let's see. I thought for sure Mike Pompeo was losing weight to run for... I did too. And he probably was, but he just realized there was no path at the end of the day. I mean, DeSantis lost a lot of weight as well. And if you've seen him recently, it looks like he might be starting to put it back on. Meanwhile, Trump has lost a decent share of weight since he left office as well. So there's that. Let's see. What do I think of the Ohio Republican Senate primary, Moreno or LaRose? I'm scratching my head. Neither seems really Trumpian, plus there aren't many polls. I would suggest Moreno. The Senate, leadership is just lining up behind him. He's the Trumpian choice. He's somebody who I think will do well in Ohio, because you need somebody that could go out there and get as many Trump voters as possible to vote for you in an election and kind of eat into Brown's share, because Trump is at the top of the ticket. So, putting somebody up there like Matt Dolan, for example, a lot of those Trump voters may just vote for Brown if they've been voting for Brown, because he's like a better Democrat in their eyes just based off of vibes than somebody who's like one of these establishment Republicans. So I think Moreno bridges that gap pretty well. Timbo Slice for 20 says, at work, so have you on while I work. Keep up the great work, sir. Saw another channel predict the 2024 election and gave Trump New York, New Jersey, Vermont, Washington, and Oregon, and even called California a lean state for Dems. Thank God you're not that bad. Well, I try to be real here, because you have a lot of people that will jump to certain, I guess you would say, notions. You have one side that says it's over, Trump can't win, they'll do X, Y, and Z again. And then you have the other side that says Trump's going to win Washington, D.C. Not actually, but they'll have California red or competitive. And it's just like, no, Trump's not winning California. Remove all the, because there's a lot of shady stuff in California. We know that. But at the end of the day, it's a blue state. Liberals are real. They exist. Am I happy about that? No, but, it is the way it is. I mean, we can't have this electoral narcissism either. M says odds of Trump putting Graham in the cabinet. I'm in favor of it for strategic purposes. It depends what position he's in. If he's going to be Secretary of Transportation or something that he's not influencing foreign affairs, I think it'd be a great strategic move. And then Trump can have his, one of his favorite governors there in McMaster appoint an actual conservative to that Senate seat. So I actually support that 100%. Let's see. Someone said the audio's bugging. Is that true? It doesn't seem like if it's true if one person's saying it. Let's see. California might have a GOP governor or senator again, but not for president. Yeah, and if they get a Republican governor, it's not going to be a Trumpian governor. It's going to be like more like a Larry Hogan type. Maybe not that bad rhetorically, but it's going to be somebody who's more seen as like a mediocre Republican, because that's the best you can do pretty much. Yeah, everybody's saying the audio's fine. Yeah, I figured it's fine. I'm sure it is. But anyways, guys, like the stream as well. We'll continue to look at chat for the next 8 minutes. We'll end the show at 11:30 Eastern time, or 10:30 on the in Central time technically. But we hit our goal. We hit 172K. I'll be back with a video tomorrow. And we'll go live again on Tuesday, because we will be covering the primaries out of Georgia. I think Washington State has primaries. Let me pull this up. Let me see. We have Georgia, Hawaii, which we're probably not going to stay up for Hawaii because that's going to take a long time to get those polls to close. But you have Mississippi and you have Washington. So we'll definitely be watching Georgia, Mississippi. Maybe we'll get to Washington as well. I don't know. But then March 19th, we've got Arizona, Florida, Illinois, and there's down ballot primaries there. You have Kansas and you have Ohio, which, again, there's down ballot in Ohio, down ballot in Illinois. So those are primaries to watch. But, yeah, definitely Trump is going to get the delegates. He's going to clinch the delegate threshold on March 12th, more likely than not, which is going to be pretty epic. So that's going to be great to see. Then you have really no big primaries until April 2nd, where you have a lot of these like northeastern primaries, and then Wisconsin, and then Pennsylvania's April 23rd. That's going to be one to watch. I don't know if they're doing down ballot the same day. They might, because they tend to. I mean, last cycle they had the primary pretty early. It was like in early May. Then you have Indiana, May 7th. Remember, in 2016, that's what really gave Trump the victory. He won Indiana. Ted Cruz dropped out. It was game over. And then there's just like a few assorted primaries the rest of the way. Now, states like Arizona need to move up their down ballot primaries because they tend to be very divisive, and it's very hard to unite the party in like 3 months. So, having their primaries as late as they do is a really bad thing. They really should make an effort to move them up. I don't know if they're going to do that, but we'll see. Let's see. Exactly says, imagine Trump pulling 2 rhino senators out of South Carolina and replacing them with real conservatives. That would be great. Keep it up, Rep. Yeah, well, anybody who says, Trump campaigning with Graham is like the worst thing ever, which is, I'm not a fan of it, but if he actually goes out there and puts him in the cabinet in some remedial position and then replaces him with an actual conservative, that's going to be a very epic 40 chess, like actual 40 chess type move. I don't know if that's his plan, but if he did it, it would be pretty epic. So I'm proud of you. Sent $3. Well, thank you. I appreciate the super chats tonight. This will be the last call for super chats just because we are going to go in 5 minutes. And if I wasn't able to read yours, I guess I kind of told you so. I try to read everyone, but sometimes you get one sent in 2 seconds before I say Red Eagle out, and then, it doesn't get read. It's like, it's disappointing, but it is what it is. So, let's see. Karamo Uyghur Unity ticket for president. So true. Sam Madsen says, thoughts on Robin Voss getting a recall? They have enough signatures. I don't know what they're trying to do. I think the guy says dumb things. I think that he's somebody who, I wouldn't say he's like a full-on never Trumper, but he's somebody that, is weak on certain stuff regarding election stuff. But, that's it. He's not weak on pretty much anything else. I think it's a waste of time because if you're going to recall him, you should be recalling most Republicans in that legislature, just in the country in general. And also, why are we spending time trying to take out Robin Voss when we should be trying to take out Dade Phelan? That's another question. Voss is kind of he says these boneheaded things from time to time that are wrong, and I condemn that, and they should be condemned. But in terms of state representatives across the country, he's far from the worst speaker. He's far from the worst. Salt A says, hey, Rep, I'll be a poll worker in New York State in the primary and hopefully the general. I will make sure the ballots are counted properly. Well, thank you. And we need a lot more of them, too. We need a lot more people that are watching polls. And that's another thing in the new RNC, platform is going to include. So that's good in terms of their strategy. M says, ideally, how many House seats can the GOP get? I think they could probably pick off a net gain of 5 to 10. I don't think it's going to be any more than that, especially in this presidential year, especially as maps are kind of becoming more and more partisan in certain states. It's going to be a little bit harder, but there's that. So, I think they're going to hold the House. I think holding the House is a very easy thing for them to do, and winning the Senate is cakewalk, especially with Trump on the ballot. People underestimate the positive effects of having Trump on the ballot. They really do. And there's that. Do I see Vivek working in Trump's cabinet? What job do I think he'd have? I see it. I don't know what job he'd have. We could make jokes about 7-Eleven all day, but, I don't know what job he's going to have. I do remember that, people were upset at that article, but Vivek wasn't upset because it was just funny. So, whatever. He'll have a role. Secretary of Commerce, maybe. Secretary of Health and Human Services. He has worked in the pharmaceutical industry. I don't know what position he's going to get, but I think he will get some position in the administration, for sure. That's all I think he was running for in the first place, to raise his profile and to get a position in the administration, which I think is fine. I'm not hating on it. But Sam Madsen says, can we win Captor's seat now that Majewski is gone? We can win it. I think it's still a little bit of I would say it's a possible flip. It's not a guarantee flip. If the seat moves to the right and you put up a good candidate, yes, it can flip. But a lot of Majewski's performance or underperformance did come from, him getting frozen out or him just having weak spots as a candidate overall. But I mean, a lot of it did come from, I guess, Captor's presence. I mean, even if you take out Toledo, she still would have won that district, which is insane. So yeah, I think that, it's a winnable seat, but still it's a uphill battle for sure. Maryland Degati 83 says, how do we make 2024 secure? Well, you need to get out and vote. We need people that are trained ballot or counters and poll watchers and things like that. And we need to get people voting, because it doesn't matter. We just need to make sure we win. Security is a little bit arbitrary. I think that it's more secure in the eyes of a lot of people than 2020, because some states are counting the ballots a lot faster. New election integrity legislation in Georgia, Arizona, etc. So we'll see. Timbo Slices, does Linda McMahon get her old spot in the cabinet, especially after everything with Vince coming out? Probably not. Not just because of that, but because I think Trump's going to turn to a lot more new people, and people that are more in his orbit now are probably going to be in the cabinet. Am I Serbian? I'm not Serbian. I'm part Armenian. I'm not Serbian at all. OG Steven 2001 says, any chance Virginia's governorship goes red in 25? It's possible. We're just a long ways away. We'll see. But yeah, we are currently an hour and a half in. We're going to end the show. It's been a great show. It's been a great stream. Make sure you guys like the stream down below. Subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video or stream. Follow me in the social media links down below. And I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.